Bienvenidos a Calladita Te Ves Más Bonita.
Nosotras somos las hermanas Ruiz Bello.
Este podcast fue creado con el fin de hacer conciencia sobre las relaciones tóxicas, cómo identificarlas, cómo salir de ellas o cómo mejorar tu situación. Hablaremos de experiencias que hemos vivido, cómo detectar los red flags y traeremos expertos en el tema para apoyarnos.
Porque sí se puede, no estamos solas y nunca es demasiado tarde.
Nunca, nunca.
Bienvenidos a un episodio más de Calladita Te Ves Más Bonita. El episodio de hoy va a ser completamente en inglés, así que Tanya, take it away.
Hello, hola, hola, hola a todos. Today's guest is very dear to my heart. We've been working together for a while now. She is a mental health illness advocate, as she herself lives with 7 or 8 mental health illnesses. She's gonna double check on that one because I'm sure about 7, but she has like a terminology thing that she needs to work on with the 8th one. But she is just an amazing soul, and she has a YouTube channel where she is very raw and real. And I'm gonna bring her up so she can tell us a little bit about her. Jen, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Welcome, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hey, you guys, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for
Happy
inviting
to
me.
have you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did I go wrong with the 7, 8 illnesses? I know you had you didn't like the terminology for the last one you were diagnosed with.
Diagnosed with, well, yeah. So about me, I'm a single mom and mental health and addiction advocate. I am certified for peer support and as a recovery coach here in the state of Arizona. So I have worked like in art therapy and probably looking to go back to work again. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I'm looking around a little bit. It's been like not a possibility in this last year with our pandemic and my son home and everything like that. So yeah, I'm really looking into some things right now, and I, always like to share my story. That's part of what I do. I have lots of different stories, whether it relates to addiction, to my mental health diagnoses, experiences that I've been through as far as different kinds of abuse, all that, homelessness, and I'm just now starting a YouTube channel to basically, present all those things and just to, share. And it actually is very therapeutic to me as well. So that's kind of where I am right now.
For the people that don't know about mental illness, can you give us a description of what that is? Examples, maybe.
I still personally explore that myself a little bit because there's a lot of different aspects to it. So mental illness is something we've discovered in a lot of like my treatments and stuff like that, that for me most likely developed in like because of some stuff that went on in my first 18 months of life. So and that really focuses to a certain part of mental illness, like personality disorders, borderline personality, narcissism, all those kinds of things. Okay, like for me, I mean, I'm still not sure, like there's diagnoses like bipolar, which they say are chemical imbalances and stuff like that. It's hard because addiction and mental illness is like, you can't really have one without the other. A lot of people think that you can, you know what I mean? And, there's always the question of which one comes first. And I definitely think like mental illness comes before like any type of self-medication or, self-harm or anything in those categories, in my personal opinion. A lot of different things are categorized in mental illness. OCD. I have 8 different mental illness diagnoses on paper.
On paper.
On paper, and I mean, and there's another aspect too that I won't go like too far into because I think it's like kind of like another subject, but I mean, there is spirituality in mental illness, which is something that I plan to do an episode on at some point. Depending on your spirituality, I mean, it depends how far people take it. Some people just literally think this is like that there's demons, that is your demons, you know what I mean? And I kind of really see both. Like I see a scientific side and I see a spiritual side.
They go hand in hand, I think.
Yeah, very much so. But not everybody, not everybody
believes that.
And I definitely look at both. Sometimes I really, like, for example, I have a son that's diagnosed with 3 different things. He's only 11 years old. I was also diagnosed like ADHD when I was 12, which there's a certain age now where they won't diagnose bipolar because you're too young. And it's like the 3 diagnoses he has, it's all the same thing. It's like ridiculous how, you know what I mean, to make it sound like, oh, he's diagnosed this. And it's like, it's all just a mood disorder. You know what I mean? It's like extreme mood switches, which eventually when he's older, most likely will be diagnosed bipolar because both me and his dad have that diagnosis. And that is another thing too, is that mental illness is said to be hereditary. So, I mean, so it's very tricky when they say like certain things make it develop in, your infant years up to like 2 years old. Like for me, for example, because I never had, I never made that mother-daughter bond in the first 18 years of my life, or 18 months, I'm sorry, 18 months. And it's very, very important. And that's what they say now causes borderline personality disorder. Well, all the other stuff, it's confusing to me, like my diagnoses, because like all the other stuff, they all just really ricochet and spiral off of each other, I mean, I have very serious anxiety disorders. I'm diagnosed obsessive compulsive, and it's like, it all comes off of how you cope, what treatment you have, what kind of support system you have and stuff like that. That's my opinion. Of course, I'm not a professional or a doctor or anything of the sort, but I am someone who experiences it all, you know what I mean? So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't think anyone's opinion is really necessarily wrong, but it is definitely interesting. And I think it can still be like a mystery because, I mean, again, I know I have like a lot of what I have from, issues growing up and like family issues and stuff like that, definitely issues between me and my mother, but bipolar and all this other stuff and these chemical imbalances, like, maybe is that hereditary? I mean, my brothers and I do speculate that my mother has like her own diagnoses that she would probably get, but my mother would never like go, my doctors and stuff always ask me like, is this in your family? Who in your family has what? And it's like, my family would never in a million years accept a diagnosis. They wouldn't even walk into a therapy office, you know what I mean? So, and I mean, at the same time, it's a generation thing too. I mean, there's a lot of people in that generation that are like that. Mental health is definitely more focused on to an extent these days. I mean, I still think that there's a lot of stigma that needs to be addressed and stuff like that, which is like why I like to advocate and everything else. But I mean, it is, as much as like I think that my family was to an extreme with it, with not like acknowledging, their own situations and stuff like that.
They're in denial.
Yeah. At the same time though, I will like, give it that entire generation was not really it was a big deal, like to say that you were clinically depressed or that you have bipolar disorder, which at the time was called manic depressive disorder. You know what I mean? Bipolar is a politically correct, more current term. That was a big deal. Like that was like something that people didn't want labeled. You know what I mean? And that's why the labels are kind of like, I go back and forth with how I feel about the labels. I did a video about like my 8 diagnoses and stuff, but I want to follow up with each one about how I feel about it. Because just because it's there on paper it really does not necessarily mean it's right. You get second opinions. I mean, every doctor could tell you 10 different things.
Everybody copes with their mental illness, or, you know, if they're OCD, everybody deals with it differently. So the fact that you're actually sharing your experiences, you know, can reach out, even if it reaches one person and it makes them reflect on, man, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one experiencing this. I think it's great that you're sharing your experience, because no 10 people are going to have the same reaction to the same coping mechanisms. So it's great that you're putting different things out there.
So I mean, coping skills are really what it's all about. I am 45 years old, so I went through absolutely, and this is where it comes in, like I call it spiritual hell. I went through years and years of not being okay. I am you know, whatever you want to call it, by the grace of God, or by, you know, whatever it is that you see, I'm okay. You know what I mean? Now, like I still have a lot of stuff that I have to pull through and, you know, cope with and stuff like that. But I definitely went through some very hard times, you know what I mean? And, you know, I spent time, I'm lucky, blessed at the same time, but I did spend a summer, I was admitted to the hospital 3 times in one summer. That was the only time ever, which I'm grateful for, because people with mental illness sometimes are in and out of the hospital, you know, all of their life. But when I did experience that, I was 40 years old. It was about 5 years ago. So, I mean, it was kind of like blindsiding to me, because I had just lived with this, you know, for so long. And I had always been like, oh, you know, I'm never suicidal. I never go to the hospital, like all that kind of stuff. And then it happened, and that was super humbling. I'll just put it like that. You know what I mean? Like it was quite an experience. And, you know, even me having the, being able to relate to other people and trying to help them and everything like that. Once that happened, I realized, you know, I saw a whole nother thing that people go through. It's just, you know, so after that was when I started really working on my coping skills and really like getting in, you know, my own research and learning my own things about medications, like things like that, you know, a lot of medications that I've been given over the years, and that they've just switched like this and that without caring, you know what I mean? Like doctors and, oh, well, that's not working, let's try this, like without even, you know, knowing anything about me. Within a 5-minute appointment, I know when I look back that a lot of the medications were harmful to me and made things worse. I know I was given medications that weren't even necessary for me to have. Like, I'm not schizophrenic, for example. I was given several schizophrenia medications over the years just because, oh, well, it can be used for bipolar, or it's good for insomnia, because I've always been insomnia. I've always had insomnia. And when I look back on that, it's like coming off of those medications affects you. Like, there's just a lot with it. You know what I mean? And, you know, I wish it hadn't. I would wish that hadn't happened. Like, that's definitely contributed to, as far as I'm concerned, to making things worse. And I just didn't know a lot about it, and people don't. And it's too bad, you know?
Yeah. Well, we admire your strength and just the woman you are, your perseverance to move forward regardless of everything that you've gone through. You mentioned that you think most of these start off because of the first 18 months of life. And How was that relationship with your mom? You mentioned that there's narcissistic
My mom was
relationships in there.
narcissistic.
Yeah. Tell
Oh,
us
sorry,
about
I
it.
cut you off. I got
No,
like,
you're fine.
I got you like
Oh,
into
my
reality
mom.
there. As soon as it comes up, I'm like, oh my God, I'm triggered already. Like, you know what I
Take
mean? I forgot we're on a
breath.
podcast. And now we're having like a therapy session here. No.
Take a breather.
Definite edit there. No, I'm just kidding. My mom, I would say, has narcissistic personality disorder, or is a narcissist, or however you want to look at it.
Mhm.
Narcissism, you know what I mean? When I later, because they like, the doctors, when you're actually in treatment and you're actually finally diagnosed, like they take diagnoses off and put new ones on and whatever. I finally was diagnosed borderline personality disorder, which I've known I've had for a long time, but it's a very tricky one, especially when it's yourself. It's very hard to monitor and cope with. There's not really like medicine for it, or, you know, you can see it maybe in other people, but it's very hard to work with yourself. But that is a direct result, according to my doctor, when he finally told me, and then I looked further into it, and it made perfect sense, because I knew that my mom had a role in, like, I'm to the point now in life where like I'm not blaming anyone else for me, like, because I'm now, you know, I'm my own person now, like I'm able to to cope, and, you know, even if it still affects me, like I can still be whatever I want to be because of it. You know what I mean? It's not stopping me. But I spent a lot of my life thinking that, you know, it was my mom's fault and she's ruined my life and this and that, like all this resentment and anger. You know what I mean? But my doctor did clarify that borderline personality disorder is formed a lot of times in the first 18 months of your life, when usually your mom, but like when a parent, you never have that right bond with a parent. So I never had the right bond with my mother. I didn't realize it. Well, I kind of did realize it started that early, but obviously I don't remember being an infant, you know. But like my mom has never told me I love you. Like she's always told me, she's always kind of like laughed in my face for anything I've said I want to do, or she's very sarcastic and condescending, like, but since I was little, and I never knew what I did, you know what I mean? And so that made perfect sense. So I started researching it more, like, you know, and it just, it's hard because like, I know that's a factor and I know that's for sure. As far as my other mental illnesses, like bipolar or substance abuse disorder, because I am an addict. I'm sober right now, but I am a recovering addict, I guess you say. That's all, like, how does that come into it later? Like, I think some of it is hereditary. I think, I don't know, like how you throw like your neurotransmitters and your chemicals and stuff off, or your serotonin or whatever. Like, I'm not sure how like that all happens, because like a personality disorder and a chemical imbalance, you know. But so yeah, there's so many, like, it's just, it all spirals, you know what I mean? It's like it gets so big that it's just all of a sudden like I have so many mental illnesses, you know what I mean? Like, thank God that I don't have like psychotic features, like where I'm delusional or I hallucinate or anything like that, but a lot of people do. And so growing up was so traumatic for me, and I didn't even realize how traumatic it was. I suffer like extreme panic disorder. I suffer agoraphobia, which is the fear of leaving the house. There's been times where I've stayed in the house for 3 months and stuff. And to figure out later that this is all PTSD and all related to narcissistic abuse. You know, that being said, I later found myself in like, you know, relationships with narcissists. My son's father was abusive during my presidency, extremely narcissistic. Even like the few contacts that I've had with him throughout the last 12 years, which is not many, still exactly the same way. And I'm like, you know, so yeah, I mean, it really, really just tears you down. And a lot of people don't come out of it. You know, a lot of people really suffer from that. And at this point in my life, I'm not in contact with my mom for the past 5 years since I got out of the hospital. And she is, both of my parents I'm not in contact with, because my mom is the same way with my father, and he listens to her. At one point when I was younger, he stood up for me a lot, and that stopped. So my mom, she really just, she does it to everyone. And that's just her, you know. And I kind of got to the point where I guess I have to like understand to an extent and forgive, because I have issues that make me react certain ways. Like borderline personality disorder is also a personality disorder. Narcissism is a personality disorder. So it's something that she can't necessarily control, but she never wanted to, like Milly said, it's denial. She never wanted to actually look into it or further into it or see why these problems are happening and try to, you know, cope or learn about it. That's not something she did. So that's not that I learned from her, and now that's something that I am very, very adamant about doing because of it. You know what I mean? So I mean, a good comes from it.
Yeah.
With all the knowledge you've acquired, and I know you're still learning, looking back at your childhood and looking back at the things your mom would do or would say, how did you realize that she can possibly have NPD?
Well, my brothers and I, when we were younger, like always speculated that, you know, she was depressed. She was like very, I mean, I'm just gonna say straight out, like she was very mean to my dad, and it used to make me sad. Like when things would happen, she would take it out on him, and you know, she would be crying, and everything was about her. You know what I mean?
She was victimizing herself.
Always.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
I mean, should I give an example? Like I have one I can think of.
Yeah, you can.
Go for it.
So there was a point in our lives when I'm the oldest. So my dad was doing really well with his career and like, you know, like financially and stuff like that. So we were able to move into like a really nice house. My mom loved it, and she was able to do like her own decorating. A lot of it was her stuff. It was like her home, you know. It was very she picked out a lot of the carpet and stuff like that, you know. And my dad lost his position with the company that had like put us in. He was a lawyer, but he had gotten a position with like a big company, like as their legal consultant, basically type thing, you know. And so they basically fired him. They let a bunch of people go. They had to cut budgets at one point, like years later. And he was one of the people, and there was like no warning whatsoever. So we had to move out of that house, and my brothers were younger. So this mostly, like I was the one who saw most of this, you know. And I remember leaving the house when we finally like were leaving for the last time and pulling out of the driveway. And my mom, she just starts crying. Like I felt so bad for my dad. Like he was so down, he was so depressed about it. You know, he felt like a failure. And my mom just starts crying. She never supported him once. Like she never, you know, gave him support for him as a person, you know. And she just starts crying in the car, and she's like, oh, my beautiful home and this and that. And like it was just so, like I was young, and I remember thinking like how my dad must feel right now, you know what I mean? It just wasn't necessary. The dramatics of it, and like even if she couldn't, it was fake. Like even if she couldn't help and a tear came or something, which shouldn't have even been the situation, because she should have been happy that she still has her husband and her healthy family and this and that, you know what I mean? Express gratitude. And it wasn't even like a big deal. It was just moving to another house, honestly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like really, like it's not like it's not like we were going to a shelter or like nothing of the sort.
Not the end of the world, mother.
No, like it was a house that people would still be happy to have. I wish I had that house right now that one we had moved into. You know what I mean? I'm in an apartment and stuff like that. And I remember just feeling so bad for my dad and just like, what is she doing? Like, what is she doing? That and like, what else? I mean, like my mom's never told me I love you ever, 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 ever.
Even till this day?
Oh yeah, never.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's obviously an issue. Like I can't even imagine. My son, like, gets so irritated with me with trying to hug him and I love you and like I can't, and then he doesn't answer me. I'll be like, I said I love you. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what, Jen? I think for me, for example, too, I grew up. I don't remember being told I love you by my parents, but working on myself and having grown up more and more, and just trying to heal that part. I tell them I love you constantly now. And my dad, I would say like in the past 10 years, I would tell him I love you. And he would always only say me too. And I would always say you too what? I would make him say it, right? So now I'm the same. No, I'm the same with my daughters. I'm like, I tell everyone in this house, I love you every single day. I hug, I kiss, like I'm that parent too.
Aww.
I think it comes from that,
And then if he's like trying to get outside or whatever, he'll just be like, I love you too. Like, just like he knows he has to say it in order to get, you know what I mean?
I love you too.
Like you're not like,
okay, I love you too, bye.
I love you.
Okay, I love you
Did
too,
you
bye.
not hear me? My mom, she didn't. And I remember being a kid, I did a lot of like dance and theater and like that kind of stuff, gymnastics and whatever. And all the kids would like, all the other girls, mostly I would watch, would like hug their moms and whatever. So I remember being like really young, I don't know, maybe like 10 or something, and like trying one time after some type of performance, because I saw other kids and they were getting flowers and stuff, to go up and hug my mom. And I just did it because I craved that. Like it was very cold in my household and everything. And she just was like, oh, with this weird laugh. And she just like stood there like it was weird. Like she didn't understand it or whatever. And that like crushed me. Like she wouldn't even hug me back or anything. And she kind of like laughed at me,
Yeah.
I never forget that. I'm sure she probably doesn't remember, you know what I mean? But it's like those things, like when something hurts you or whatever, and like you never forget. And sometimes the person doesn't even remember. Like I'm sure she'd be like, another thing about my mom too is like when I do bring these things up, which is like way past, like I'm not even speaking to her now, but like, and I never really brought a lot of things up, but when I would every once in a while, when she would get me like pretty heated, because I was afraid of her, I didn't speak up. She would be like, no, like that is ridiculous.
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I didn't do
like,
that.
I don't know
if
she really believes that.
Yeah.
Or like what she might really believe it. I don't know. Like it would amaze me, because she'd be the type too to flip and be like, oh, you're such a liar. And, with other things like, and like, she would tell me when I was a kid that I was lying about things that I wasn't even lying about. She would also like assume that I was doing things later in life that I wasn't doing. Like, you know what I mean? I did get into like, a crazy lifestyle in my 20s and 30s, after dealing with all this and, catching all these issues like panic disorder and stuff like that, and having panic attacks and whatever. I started self-medicating. I became addicted to drugs, all different drugs, I was stripping for 18 years, and I do believe that all pushed me into this lifestyle. But it's like funny, because at that point, then it was just like, ha ha ha, like I told you that this was who you would, you know what I mean? Like this is, I mean, again, like if my mom were to hear me saying this, she'd be like, oh, how dare,
You
How
are
dare she?
lying.
You are lying. How
I was
this
the
is your own
perfect
fault.
mother.
This
Yeah.
is not my fault. And this, you know, and again, it's like I'm not even saying it's her fault. Like I'm over that. Like we all not. I mean, none of us are perfect parents. I'm sure Nick has issues
No,
from stuff
yeah.
that I've, you know what I mean. But I don't know. I mean, it's like she would never come to. Like I
Jen,
tried to get her to come to therapy with me. I tried a lot of things.
Yeah.
She wouldn't.
they
face
don't.
it.
They. This is the way they've always been, and maybe, you know, maybe she went through a traumatic experience with her parents, and this is the way it's always been. And with MPD and personality disorders, if you don't acknowledge it, I really believe that they do it and they don't even know that they're doing it,
I think
and
so.
they don't
Realize it,
even
yeah.
acknowledge it. They don't realize that what they're doing is really harmful.
What would you say to someone that's going through a relationship similar to yours with their parents? Like, what advice would you give that person?
And so that's a hard one because honestly, I've talked to a lot of people about it, and it's like I can't believe the relationship with my parents that I'm going through right now. Like I could never stop seeking my son. I didn't even do anything to them. I wasn't perfect in my own life, but that was my life. I was the one who was suffering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know it hurts your family too, but I mean, but so it's like I don't understand what it is that they're not forgiving me for. I don't understand that, but I've let it go. So I have suffered with so much tight chest and panic and anxiety in my life because of resentment towards my parents, my mom, and anger and rage, and you know, just I block a lot of like I block a lot. Like I'm very good at blocking, but every once in a while I'll like cry about, like I can watch, like, oh gosh, if I watch the show Intervention, I always cry during the intervention. And Nick's like, why are you crying? Like it's a good thing, right? But I always cry, and it's because I see the family come and read them the letters and stuff like that, and I'm like, anything about family, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
since I struggle with it, and since I really don't see like a lot of this type of relationship, especially at this point in our lives, like I feel like they should forgive me and for whatever they're upset about. And like, I mean, I feel like we should talk before they passed away, but I don't think that's going to happen. You know what I mean? But I've made peace with that. I think you just have to forgive, like, to be cliche about it.
Yeah.
I wish I could give a little better, but I'm obviously still like in the position. But I am much more like I'm just okay with it. I mean, the relationship was toxic. So honestly, since like we haven't talked, things have been much better for me personally. But there's still that hanging over my head that like my whole family doesn't talk to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Well, it's a process, I think, right? You keep working through it, but I think the main thing was separating yourself from them,
yeah,
and forgiving, and just keep on working on yourself.
I mean, it's nice in a way. Like I don't like it. It was so hard, like with my mom. Like I mean, my mom, just knowing my mom was coming, like I would be having extreme panic for like 24 hours ahead of time, knowing that I was going to see her the next day or something like that. You know what I mean? And it was just always so awful, and I would feel so bad after, like, you know. So I mean, I guess I have to tell myself, like, I don't have to deal with that anymore. You know what I mean? Like I am 45, like I'm just like growing up now. Like after addiction, they always say like you when you get sober, like your maturity level is like to when you started using drugs and things like that. And between that and like the way my mom acted with me, like I acted like a little kid, like, you know what I mean? So like I've been able to grow up and live my life, you know what I mean? I was kind of like a prisoner during all that. So I mean, I just look at all the peace that I have from it, you know, as far as like, I'm not sure like if like what kind of reaction will come out of me when they pass away. Like hopefully I don't go through like extreme trauma and all that. Like it can happen, you know. But in a way, I feel like we've already said goodbye to each other. You know what I mean? 5 years ago, and it just is what it is. I definitely wasn't doing all this stuff and flourishing and, you know, doing all the good things that I'm doing now when I was speaking with them. You know what I mean? And I still stand behind my decision of cutting them off when I did. You know, that's a whole nother video. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I definitely stand by that. I think like it would affect everyone different probably, but I honestly think it's pretty unique. I don't think it's a very common situation unless like your kid really did something. I don't know, like I just, being a mother myself, I can't imagine that with my own son. But again, like I love him so much and I want to make sure like that I never act like my mom to him, you know. I don't know. I guess I don't really have like a lot of good advice yet for that.
Well, I got a great one, which was separating, like distancing yourself from them, and how much better your life has been because of cutting them off. So
I mean, and if you even knew the situation before I just told them we're done or whatever, like
I can only imagine.
Exactly. So it was, at the time, it actually was, it felt so good. You know,
you have actually taken, you know, steps to being better and knowing what you have so you can cope with it. So that's what we admire about you.
Thank you. I learned that from like having like borderline personality disorder, which is coincidental because it is a direct result of the narcissistic abuse. That's almost 100% true. Like that's one that's like not really too debatable.
How does personality disorder, how does that derive from having a narcissistic parent or a parent that shows little to no love? How does that come to play?
I find, and you know, I've even gone to school for psychology. I haven't graduated or anything like that. But I've taken a lot of psychology in college and stuff like that. And honestly, borderline personality is one of the most confusing ones. Personality disorders in general, I guess. But I don't really know. And it's very hard to like see and catch in yourself. You know what I mean? Now, like, I want to say like that I don't self-harm. Like self-harm is like a very a symptom of borderline personality disorder, like cutting yourself and stuff like that. Like I want to say I don't, but then it's like I try to think like that's not the only way. You know what I mean? Like I bite my nails down to like the skin, like all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like just like habit, like, you know, that's self-harming. Like I'm like pulling the skin off. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's nothing. You know, and I do it when I have anxiety. You know, it's all directly related. But you know, and I have like a lot of see, the personality disorder is so hard to see in yourself. It really, really is. I have very hard time with relationships. You know what I mean? And I think when I further explored like myself having borderline personality disorder and got diagnosed and stuff, is having my own child, because thank God, like I have like full compassion towards him. Like I could never be like I think like with borderline personality, like again, it's so hard. It's such a hard one as far as all the mental illnesses. I think it's the most difficult to understand, and even therapists will say that. I even had a therapist tell me one time, and they don't tell you like a lot of, you know, like they're, you know, they don't share their own personal stuff. You know, I had a therapist tell me one time that she, this is before I was diagnosed too, but I'm sure she probably knew, she does not like to have clients with borderline personality. Like that's her hardest and most difficult to deal with. You know, as far as narcissistic, I don't think a lot of them go to therapy. I really don't.
No,
You know, I think that's their
no.
big thing. Like that's
I
like
think
almost
I
impossible to
think
get them
they
in.
say when you mention therapy or suggest it, they immediately think I'm not crazy. Why would I do that? You know, like,
My
Mhm.
my mom once said to me, she said, like, how did she say it? She goes, I've had, like, she always, when she would say something, she'd be like, "'cause of you," like that, like with this, like, she's so
never the
dramatic,
blame
like
on her.
everything,
Yeah.
She would
like
turn it around on you.
fake crying, like all that, and like,
Crocodile
what
tears.
kind of example is
Mhm.
that with your 4 kids? But you know, again, I forgive her now. I've actually reached out many times in the last 5 years because my parents are like 75 years old, and I'm just like, so are you planning on passing away with never speaking to me again?
Yeah.
They have not responded to me, and I am to the point where it's like I've done my part. You know what I mean? I've reached out on birthdays, I've reached out on Mother's Day through email, you know, ways that, I mean, they don't even have to talk to me. Like, how is it hard to, you know, message back, thank you? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's, you know, it's just so
It's
dramatic.
she's punishing you. She's punishing
Right.
you. Yeah, the silent treatment. Narcissists are known for different methods of punishing somebody, and silent treatment is one of their biggest ones. They
Yes.
punish you that way.
We've been on and off silent treatment like my whole life, mostly like when I was out of the house. But this one, I cut them off. And so I'm assuming that's why I'm punished.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll never speak to them again. I mean, you know, and it is what it is. I mean, and I don't even know how soon after they do pass away, I'll find out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could, I might not even know. Like, I check all the time. Like, I'll check like obituaries and stuff like that, because I'm always like, I mean, come on, like, they're, you know.
So you don't even talk to your brothers?
So that's an interesting story directly related to my mother. So my brothers and I have always been extremely close. One of them is a year and a half younger than me. When I lived in Chicago, he lived 2 doors down. We went out together. We went to the bars together, like casinos, like all that kind of stuff. And since I cut off my relationship with my parents, okay, so I'm not speaking to my brother. My 3 brothers aren't speaking to me. It's very painful. That's more painful to me than my parents at this point. And it's painful to me also because they have kids, and my son needs that family. He needs his cousins. He doesn't have his dad. He has only me. He has no siblings. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But everyone's always like, oh, well, you know, because I'm crazy and bipolar, and because I'm a drug addict who's been clean for 8 years, coming in July, by the way. So I mean, that's they've only not talked to me for the last 5 years. So
Wow.
none of that is it. My brother was always extremely supportive, the one that I was really close to. My brother went through some stuff with gambling and drinking. What happened? My parents freaking bonded him out of a year in federal prison, like all kinds of stuff. Okay. And take him to come live with them and say, I'm, you know what I mean? Like, the one that's like causing all the problems. So my brothers were always like supportive through all of that. Like, my one brother was like my biggest support through, I mean, he was very much with me with, during like a bad cocaine addiction. He got me a bed in detox and flew me out to Arizona from Chicago to detox off of Xanax medically because it was dangerous. I mean, so it's not
Wow.
anything against, like, they never judged me. They all had their own issues too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now, since I cut my mom off, none of them will even respond to me. So I'm like, what in the world could she have told them? Because everyone's like, well, maybe this. And I mean, it's like, no, they knew all that. Like, what could she have possibly told them that would make that happen? And I don't
Yeah.
know. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'll ever know. I hope I do.
And you
Because
may
I'm-
never know.
And I mean, but it kills me. That kills me because that just kills me, because I mean, my brothers were like everything to me. You know what I mean? And you know, they were my best friends. I've moved from Chicago, where I'm born and raised, to Arizona. I don't have a lot of like good friends out here. Like, and I always had my brothers, you know, it was like no problem. They live in Denver now, but still, you know. And it just, I can't even imagine. Like, and I wonder if she said, like, first of all, she didn't let me in the house. She never let me in her house. So like, I wonder if she said like I stole from them or anything like that. You know what I mean? I never did. And there's a lot of people that do steal from their family and pawn stuff and do stuff like that. I never did that. I never had to. I had my own money. I don't have anything to show for it now. And it may have been like, you know, I was single and I was, you know, I always had a bunch of cash because I was either, you know, I was always working in the bars, in the nightclubs. You know what I mean? So I had a lot of money. I had cars. I had all that stuff. So that wasn't an issue. Now, since I had my son, I stopped all that. So there was like, I have like, there's been a couple times we've been in homeless shelters. We have a lot of public assistance, stuff like that. So she could have flipped that, you know what I mean, later without me having money and stuff like that. But she obviously said I did something like very, very horrible. And that just, so my aunt, who is my mom's only sister, passed away a few years ago. She was young, maybe like 57.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so their mom passed away at the same age too, which is weird. On that side of my family, I have to be very careful because the women on my mom's side of the family have like diabetes and heart disease and stuff like that. So they were very, very close. My aunt was the exact same way towards me. Okay. Exactly. And it was like when they would get together, it was like almost gaining up on me. This is when I'm a child.
Wow.
And when you said, Milly, that a lot of times they like, you know, I don't know what my mom went through like when she went up. I loved when she was growing up. I loved my grandparents. I was very sad when they died on her side of the family. My mom was 100% secret about everything. She never talked about her life. I don't know what her life was like when she was a kid, but it seemed like she was close with her parents. So I never really overthought it until later. You know what I mean? So I started thinking about these things. So I don't know what happened to my mom. I think maybe, you know, she had a really rough, or she maybe had a lot of abuse or molesting. I don't know. You know what I mean? Something traumatic probably happened. My aunt was the exact same way, but it's weird because my aunt had a daughter, only one child, and she was very close with her, but they were just like on me.
But your aunt and her daughter had a close relationship. I mean,
Yes.
was it close to the point where it was a loving relationship?
Yes, but it's yeah, it's weird too. And then my aunt's daughter grew up to be like exactly the same as her. Like she was a teacher, you know what I mean? Like she's very, I don't know. I don't know. My aunt, you know, she got divorced when my cousin was about 5, I want to say. So she became a single mom. I mean, I kind of understand because I'm a single mom with one child, and like
But you're not toxic.
No, definitely not. I mean, I have times where I catch myself where I'm like, Shen, you can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
You know,
well, because you've worked so much on it to not
yeah,
have your child have that life that you had, right? That's why. But
yeah,
it just goes to show that you never know with these type of people, with they will always what's it called? They will always, ¿cómo se dice aparentar?
Aparentar, when you
They
kind
will
of play the
show,
role.
they will always show different faces to different people. You know
To
what I
different
mean?
people,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Appearances.
yeah, they will
It
always
is, yeah.
appear, have different, you know, personalities with different people. Like they know who they can do things to.
Well,
Have you ever
yeah,
have
so
you
I'm
ever
my
spoken
mom's
to your
number one
cousin?
target.
Yeah,
No,
have you
now
ever
she
spoken?
doesn't speak to me. I used to speak to her. Now she doesn't speak to me. Like I tried to friend her on Facebook and she didn't. This is years ago. I'm just over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when we were younger, we were friends because like it was like she didn't have siblings and I only had brothers, so it was like almost like she was my sister. You know what I mean? But yeah, later she stopped talking to me with the rest of the family. I don't know.
Jen, Jen, at
Yeah.
what point did you decide that you would not care what anyone would think and you would start putting all of your story out there? Because you have a YouTube channel, it's very raw and real, like I mentioned at the beginning.
Very raw, and I
Yeah,
love it.
at what, yeah, I mean, you have had live panic attacks, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's very real what you go through on a daily basis. At what point
Daily.
did you say, I'm just gonna do it? Like, I don't care what anyone thinks.
In 2015, I graduated the peer support, and then I got that job in art therapy, which is perfect for me because I'm an artist actually. So I was in an art studio with behavioral health. And part of that, what's the difference between going through like getting your peer support certificate, being certified for that, and being either having like a psychology degree or even being a behavioral health tech or whatever, because you, as a peer support, you can work in all the same places. Like now that Nick is back, like I'm gonna try to get a job in detox. I volunteered in detox before, so I would love to like actually work in detox. You know, the whole course is about telling your story. That the whole thing is about it. So it was 3 times a week, and it was 6 hours a day. So it was a lot. And right after that, when I got the art therapy job, is when I started suffering, and it was right before I went through that summer of hospitalizations. And that course is traumatic. It really brings out a lot in you because you practice and you talk about things. You have to be able to do it in order to work in that position. You know what I mean?
Oh, I
That's your
see.
job.
Okay.
Because it's like like we were talking about in the beginning with mental health, getting a little bit, or I guess I could say a lot. It's more the stigma that needs to be worked on, but mental health getting you know, more recognition, more care, all that kind of stuff these days. The reason that a lot of people don't seek help, or the reason that a lot of people leave, is because there's no one there that is actually like understanding, or you know, just because someone has like, you know, 3 degrees or they're a doctor or everything else, like it's not working all
They
the
won't
time. You know,
understand
especially with
what
like
you're
addiction
actually,
and
yeah, they won't understand what you're going through actually, because they've never been through it,
and
right?
they don't, and it's true, because, and I know myself, like I'm able to get along with like certain doctors and certain therapists and stuff like that, but it's not like to say like, oh, we're smarter or this or that. Like, it's true, like you cannot understand the experiences. You know what I mean? There is no way, and everybody has like a little bit of everything, you know what I mean? But when you're someone like me who's spent years in addiction, or like is really like has all those diagnoses and this and that, whatever, like you really do want to help. And it's also therapeutic for you. Like that's the big thing about peer support. Like it's very helpful for me also, you know what I mean? To see like all these people, you know, and they don't want to come in for help because there's nobody who understands, you know what I mean? There's nobody who understands. There's nobody who understands that after, you know, disappointment, there's still going to be suffering, and what are they supposed to do? You know what I mean?
And they feel judged. A lot of them feel judged.
If they feel like they can't come in and seek help, you know what I mean? Like I felt that for years, like who's gonna, you know, or every time, you know, someone would just be like, well, you know, I had a therapist tell me one time, but it was like not like a therapist, it was like an on-duty therapist in an emergency room. You know what I mean? And she was like, well, don't, I was having a panic attack and I didn't know this before I knew what it was. I went 3 times to the emergency room with a panic attack before I started like addressing my anxiety, you know, and thinking I was dying or something was wrong with my heart, like when I'm 23, you know? And I had one therapist be like, well, you know, don't you think your lifestyle might be whatever she said, like something about my lifestyle. And I was like, I didn't understand it. You know what I mean? It's like, I was so far from even knowing I had an anxiety disorder, knowing anything that was going on. Like I was young and I had no support, no emotional support, whatever. And I just took that as like, this is ridiculous. Like, how did we jump from what I'm going through, from me feeling like I'm, you know, my heart is failing and this and that, and I'm having this panic attack. I'm in the emergency room with, all types of stuff on me. And they bring a therapist in, and I'm like, what? I don't even know what she's talking about. And I felt like I needed that life. Like, how else was I going to survive at the time? And I was making a good life for myself. I knew I could never go to my parents. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people can. So as far as I was concerned, like I was doing the right thing. You know what I mean? And I wasn't bothering anyone else to take care of me or anything like that. And that's how I was conditioned, because I didn't have that family or emotional support.
Yeah.
So for her to come in, I mean, you need to get deeper into that kind of stuff before you start. That was straight judgment.
And this is another reason why a lot of people, I think, don't necessarily go to a psychologist or a therapist, because they feel like they're going to be judged, and
So I have been out of therapy for years, but I just started again. I first was referred to this, like I have like an integrated clinic. I have integrated care for my mental health. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I was first I have a case manager. She said I could just go to, in the clinic, they have like an in-house clinic, and, or an in-house therapist, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke with him, and it was not working out. Like, he was condescending, like it was not working. And this is years since I've been in therapy, and I'm just starting again. And so I told her, and she's like, she's very good with me. But I've had a lot of different case managers. Some are good, some are not, but she knows me very well. And she like respects me a lot. She's very good to me. And I told her, and she's like, Jennifer, she's like, do you think like, it was him? Like, do you think like he, like all this stuff? I told her, you know what? I know that I do have borderline personality disorder. So I had to think about it for a minute, and I used the tools that I know how to use, like with mental health and stuff like that. Like, was it personal towards me?
Mm-hmm.
Am I being rational? Like all this stuff. And then I sat there for like 5 minutes. I told her, no. You know what? I said, I try to think about like how other people would have reacted to the conversation that I had on the phone with this man, because of COVID. I didn't see him in person, right? And I was like, no, there's no way that anyone would have been cool with that. Like, you know what I mean? And I want to do a video about this. Actually, I was triggered by it. I got off the phone, like I was waiting, and I was so excited to go to therapy because there was some stuff I wanted to talk about with my son and all that, like being a mom with my son. He's in so much treatment that I figured like I should have some therapy too, And she was like, okay. And then she said afterwards, she goes, I'm very proud of you. And she goes, and I want you to know you're not the only one. She goes, I can't give personal information out, of course, and stuff like that, but you're not the only one who has realized this with this man.
Yeah.
Then I had to wait a little bit, because she had to put a referral to an outside agency for me to get a new therapist. And I just did a Zoom with my new therapist last week, and we vibed very, very well. And I had to wait like 6 weeks after talking to this guy. And
but you have my sister too.
Yeah, I know. I do have a few, but your sister has been busy.
Yes, well, she's a mother of
I
four.
get to talk to her like all day. We talked for like 5 minutes yesterday, and I saw her face, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this without Tanya. Tanya is like on my gratitude list when I make that.
Yeah.
Like, I need her. This girl was awesome. She stayed on the phone with on a Zoom for 2 hours instead of 1. Like, it's gonna be great. Like, stuff came up that I wasn't even seeking the therapy for, that she's like, okay, we'll explore that. Like, I think it's going to be really, really good. And I have now that Nick is in a program. This was his first week out of the house for the last year with the pandemic. So I'm actually going to see her in person on Tuesday, and I'm so excited.
Oh, I love it. Do you see what happens when you use your voice?
Yeah.
I mean, you waited 6 weeks, but so much better when you do, and you start standing up for yourself.
It's nice. Like my treatment team is super respectful of me at this point and stuff. Now that I've taken initiative to learn things or whatever, like my case manager, she was out of the office for a week. I can't remember what the issue was. And I was talking with the peer support that works at my clinic. There's a peer support there. Like peer support is really big right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's very important in mental health. And she was, I can't remember what it was. Something was going on that I needed help with, and I took care of it. And my case manager came back, and I guess the peer support had told her, oh yeah, she's got it all done. She's doing it today or something like that. And my case manager was like, she is so resourceful like that. You know what I mean? And that's a big compliment from them though. You know what I mean? So it's cool. Like it's definitely, I definitely need to get back into the field, I guess. But like my main thing is to advocate for it and to be raw, like you were saying, like my live panic attacks and whatever it is, you know what I mean? If I mean, God forbid I ever have to like go through addiction or like active addiction or detox from anything again, like I will do it live on my channel. You know what I mean? I don't care what it is, like how bad it is, but I have a lot of content. When you say that I'm like raw and you know that I'm showing a lot of stuff, I will say that like that is the point, and that's what it's all about. And I have so much content that I have held back from so far. There's a lot of times where I'm like, I can't, like, and you know, like some stories I'm afraid to tell, even stuff like this. Like I want to talk about my narcissistic mother on my, but I mean, she's gonna see it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like, and she's gonna be like, oh, you know, like probably come out on the news like one of those mothers, like that's not, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, look, you know, I mean, she's older, so I mean, I don't know when I'll get to that. There's so much stuff that's gone in my life that gives me a lot of content. You know what I mean? But I've really held back.
We all go through it. My sister and I spoke about, you know, our family's gonna watch this and they're gonna think we're crazy, and
oh yeah,
we're probably gonna be judged. No, not probably. We are gonna be judged.
I said,
they're gonna be mad.
And I said, you know, we're already being judged regardless, because people judge you no matter what you're doing, if it's good or bad. They're gonna, even if it's good, they're gonna see something bad about it. People that don't like you will always see the negative, right? So do whatever you want. Do what you want. It's your life. At the end of the day, you're helping so many people, because I know that you've gotten so much feedback, especially with people who are going through the same thing that you are, and that don't have like the guts to say, oh my God, this is what I'm going through. Thank you for sharing. I'm not alone. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And
in turn, you're gonna inspire somebody to put their story out there and help even more people. So it's, you know,
and I mean, I've been inspired by other people who have done that too. I mean, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's great. What Tanya said, of course, is true right now. That is why she is my therapist, and why I cannot go that long without talking to her. Always the voice of reason. She just slips it in there real carefully. You know what I mean? Real easily. But yeah, I mean, it is about like letting go and not caring. You know what I mean? My mom's not even answering me. Like my family's not even answering me. Why would I not talk about it? It is what it is. And you know, half of what I talk about on there, like they don't even know. Like they don't know anything about me. Yeah, they were never in my life. Yeah. They decided
they were never there. Yeah,
what I was doing. You know, they decided for themselves. This is who I am, what I'm doing.
Without knowing anything about you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or taking the time to learn anything about what I'm going through. You know what I mean? Like they, you know, they thought it was fake. You know, it's not real. Yeah. None of that is really happening. Like, you know what I mean? It kills me. A lot of people are like that. That's what the stigma with like mental health and stuff like that. Like, it's not real. Like, okay.
If somebody was to ask you, I too have a mental illness, how can I share my experience, or how can I share the knowledge I've acquired with other people? How do I break that fear of sharing, so I can to help, even if it's just one person? How can I become a mental illness advocate?
Well,
What would you tell them?
I mean, the thing is like, you know, you have to just do it. You know what I mean? But you definitely have to like be open and honest and authentic. And that like that's what I was saying too. Like there's stuff that there are anxiety and panic attacks where I haven't even filmed and I'm like, I should be filming, but like I don't even want to film this right now. It's so bad. I have one little clip that on one of my phones or something where I'm like, I'm having such a bad panic attack, I don't even want to film right now. And my son went, because we're working on making me like an intro for my he goes and puts that in there, and I'm like, it's actually perfect. Like I didn't like the rest that he did, but I'm like, it looks so perfect. Like for 1 second, it's like I'm having such bad panic attack, I don't even want to film right now, right? And I'm like, I love it, But so that's easy for me to do, like anxiety vlogs and other stuff. But I literally, I know I've repeated this 100 times. I literally have 4 notebooks of content. You know what I mean? And I write more every day, and I haven't gotten to those yet. And like I've like touched the waters and stuff, but it's like I know like it's hard. It's therapeutic for me, the channel. That's what I would probably tell people, is that like it is like the channel is more therapeutic for me than I think. That's the main reason I'm doing it. Like it really is. I just think it's something I'm supposed to be doing, because it's like I didn't even expect, like I have subscribers that I'm in contact with, you know what I mean? Or other YouTubers that are like smaller YouTubers, like on the same subject, that I've talked to or interviewed, or I have their phone numbers. And now like I can't let people down. I only have like 220 subscribers, and I have subscriber requests for videos already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're like, can you talk about this? Like, and so I think a lot of what scares me is like, if it does, get to be a bigger channel or whatever, the more people that are watching, come the negative comments, the judgmental comments. And I've been holding back from that. A lot of people, like Tanya would be like, psh, like Tanya could do that and it would not, she will laugh. You know what I mean?
Just thank them, honey. Just thank them for their negative comments, because they're actually commenting.
Thank you for your opinion.
You don't even thank them. No.
But it's funny, because it brings us back to the point or the topic that we have going on here, is that why that's something that's going to be, that I'm going to face. I know I'm going to face it, but I've been holding back on it or whatever, because that's like literally that kind of stuff. It reminds me of my mom. Or like there's certain things in life, like Tanya's worked really hard with telling me, with me, like not worrying about other people, or not, they're little condescending or passive aggressive. Like passive aggressiveness is like, I can't even, right? But don't mess with me with it, because I'll dish it out really, really well if you do. I can do it just as good. But like I'm a nice person. I have a very pure heart. You know what I mean? I really do. So my feelings get hurt. I'm sensitive. And Tanya's worked with me a lot with that. You know what I mean? And there are certain things that people will say to me that will just like
trigger,
hurt my whole day or my whole week or whatever, because it will remind me like exactly of my mom. Or, like they might not even know, or passive aggressiveness, because that's my mom and her passive aggressiveness. I can't even like that. I think that's a narcissist trait as well. I think passive aggressive is like the most obnoxious thing. But I mean, I grew up with constant passive aggressive since I'm a child. You can't be passive aggressive with a child. You know what I mean? Like that's awful. And I think, that's something I'm gonna have to face. And some of those comments are really gonna, like, what I even had a subscriber say something to me the other day about one of my videos, and about, I love to watch you, but you're all over the place and you talk so fast. And it's like, well, it's called
hit pause
rapid
and rewind.
Or don't watch. She's like, I love your videos, but you're gonna have to do this, because you say you have all this content, because I'm always telling them, like in my live streams, I have a lot of content, but I have to like wait till I can film it correctly and stuff like that. And she's like, telling me like to do it, and I'm like, you know, like you're not running my channel. Like I mean, appreciated it because she's like, I really like to watch you and I like your content and stuff. But I'm like, but nothing. Like
and I think it's hard. We need
That's
to
why it's raw.
Yeah. We need to understand that your stuff is not going to be for everybody, right? And those people that feel the need to comment negative things, they have nothing better to do. And I always tell you, Jen, it's a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of you. I mean, and you delete those, you know, they won't follow you anymore. This is what you're going to get. And the people that do like it and do resonate with it, those are the ones that are going to keep coming back and they're going to keep watching.
It's like when she told me, like, you're talking today, your video today, you were talking so fast and blah, blah, blah. I was like, first of all, like, I'm the same on all of them. Like, and I always mention how I'm all over the place and I talk a lot. Well,
disclosure.
I'm a bipolar disorder. Like I have racing thoughts. My thoughts don't finish. Like I can't finish. I don't complete sentences. It's a very, very normal trait of bipolar disorder, you know, and it's rapid speech. So I am bipolar 1. There's 2 different bipolars, bipolar 1, bipolar 2. And so I'm more manic and bipolar 2 is more depressive. I've worked on it. Like my speech used to be worse when she's like, you're talking so fast. It's called rapid speech. I wanted to tell her, like, you know, but then I didn't want to be passive aggressive, right? It's called rapid speech and I can't control it. I try and I'm better now.
There's a topic for a next video, you know, why you are all over the place and talk so much. It's called rapid speech.
I need to do that video.
Yeah, you do. This is why my videos are like this. And yeah, there you go.
Write that down.
Write
it down. Yes, write it down
everywhere.
Okay, so with that in mind, okay, you have so much energy and positive energy. You want to do good in the world, but what does Jen do when you're feeling gray? How do you get out of it? How do you reset?
It's like, so I mean, it's like different. It's literally different all the time. Like, I mean, I'm manic. I'm a very manic person. You know what I mean? Like I deal with anxiety every day. I used to not really be able to get out of it. And that's why I would be like stuck in the house or whatever. Now it's different things. Like I can sit and do like a guided meditation for anxiety sometimes. I can listen to worship music or read the Bible. Like I can go both directions with that. Or like sometimes I can even like art used to be a big one for me. And I've been struggling with getting back into my art because for the last 3 years of thinking that I'm going to be some amazing network marketer, I totally neglected my art. You know what I mean? So I've made myself an art table again. Like I used to go to the studio 5 days a week. And so that's something that I really, really have to get into. I've done it like a little bit here and there, but it used to be the only thing because my head is so like, there's so much going on. There's so many racing thoughts and everything. It used to be the only thing that I could like focus and have a clear head because I'd be focused on my art. You know what I mean? So I definitely have to get back into that. So I do a lot of art. And see if that's, I mean, I know it still works, but like, I don't know, like, I just have to do it. So I'm excited for that because that's something that's been on my list. My YouTube and my art have been a big thing. Sometimes everyone's always like, oh, talk to somebody. And that is really not like a big one for me because I don't want to talk about it. You know what I mean? And like give it more attention. But sometimes I can talk to someone else who's suffering. Like I have a support group on Facebook. I'm not like, I'm kind of like moving away from Facebook, but I do have a support group on there that has like 8,000 people in it for drug abuse and mental illness. I have a few of them, but this one has gotten up to like 8,000 people. Sometimes I will go in there. There's a lot of moderators in there, so I don't have to be in there all the time. But I'll go in there and find someone who's like, is anyone available to chat or something like that? And sometimes helping someone else or talking to them will work. And that's why this has been a good thing. And that's why I suggest it to people. but and what else can I do? Like, I don't know. I mean, like if my son is around, that helps a lot. A lot of times straight to the kitchen. Like I love to, like recently, like cleaning the kitchen has been, it's so weird, like little things. Like I'll like
But you know
spotless
what?
kitchen.
Cleaning is therapeutic.
Yeah.
It is.
Cleaning is therapeutic. You're clearing, you're purging. You're purging of waste, you're cleaning, you're cleansing your space. So it actually can be very therapeutic and can open up your creativity in that sense, you know, because after you're done cleaning, then you can go back to creating your art or
Yes.
go back to writing more notes on your YouTube for your YouTube channels, you know.
Writing, journaling is huge, but yeah, and
Yes.
writing. But they change all the time though. But I think the biggest thing is like to embrace it, to embrace your anxiety, because the truth is like I still, even though I'm probably at like the healthiest mindset of my life, but I still have, I mean, we all can improve, like, you know, I still, whatever, but I'm in a better place. And I think that I just had to like accept the fact, like, because I will go through like an anxiety attack or a time of anxiety about 3 times daily still to this day. Sometimes like, actually the next video I'm doing for sure, because I've been meaning to do this for a long time, is like an anxiety attack versus a panic attack. Very different. Okay. And a lot of people don't understand that. So sometimes I'll get to a panic attack, which is a very big deal because it's physical symptoms and all that, you know what I mean? And so I'm going to talk about that, but so I just got to the point where it's like, okay, me as a person, we're all different as a person. I have to like accept the fact that throughout the day I have to put into my time management or into my calendar and into my schedule, or even if I only do it in my head, that there's going to be 30 minutes to an hour that I'm going to have to bring my anxiety down. You know what I mean? We all have different things.
Yeah.
And it's like, I used to not, you know, because maybe somebody else doesn't have that. And it's like, well, I can't just sit here and take time out for my anxiety. Well, yeah, I can, and I'm going to have to. And I finally realized that, you know what I mean? Like, that's just something I have to do. You know, some people
It's
have
something
to
for you.
check their blood sugar or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. And in the end, what I've realized now, this is to a YouTube video that a subscriber asked me to talk a little more about, because I think I touched on it in a live stream. So putting the time in, and that's something that I've learned since I started the YouTube channel, or that I've come up with, is that I think you just have to embrace your anxiety and accept the fact that you take whatever time you need or do what you have to do. Otherwise, it's just gonna take more time out of your life. Because anxiety can be 100% debilitating. I've been there before. You know what I mean? I can't work almost because of it, you know? And so in the end, though, I'm realizing that that's bringing me to a better place spiritually, to closer to God, like however you want to look at it. Like I won't like get on beliefs because mine are like extensive, but like, you know, well, like we said in the beginning, that spiritual part, like, it's bringing me a relationship. There's a reason that you have to sit and handle it. You know what I mean? There's something missing. And the more that you embrace it and just like deal with it and work on it and cope with it, the better you are spiritually. And like you know what I mean? Like I've built a relationship with God through it. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of stuff. So I mean, you know, it's just, it's part of me, and it's because you know, there's a connection that I'm making, and there's I don't know, that all needs to cut out. I don't know.
It just, you know, it brings you peace. Jen, it brings you peace.
It's bringing me closer to the spirituality that I didn't have when I needed it, when I didn't have emotional support, when I didn't have my family. You have to have something, you know what I mean? And so yeah, so now I know that when I'm having anxiety, it's like, sorry, I can't commit to this. I have to go in the house and deal with it. And I'm very open about it too. You know what I mean? At this point. in my life.
You
Just
have
like, I'm
to
sorry, I
be.
have anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do for yourself is be true to yourself.
Yeah, be honest
Yes.
with yourself.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. You don't
Jen-
want to admit that for so long because like not everybody goes through that. And it's
Yeah.
so hard and hurtful to be like, you know, and it's scary, you know, panic attacks are very scary. Hi, baby.
Jen, my beautiful Jen, thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing your story with us. We love you. Where can people find you? Where on social media? You talk a lot about your YouTube channel. Please tell us the name of the YouTube channel and which social media platforms people can find you at.
So my YouTube channel is called Faith Made Legacy. I have 2 Instagrams. One is called Faith Made Legacy as well. And one is called Manic Gypsy Official.
Okay.
I'm sure that you'll put it in the description box below.
Yes.
And
yes.
on Facebook, you know, my name is Jennifer Michelle on Facebook. I'm sure there's a lot of them, but I do have like a Jennifer Michelle mental health and addiction advocate page or something. And I have a couple like pages on there. I am working on my social medias as well to get everything all in one because I kind of have like 2, Manic Gypsy and Faith Made Legacy, and I'm trying to figure out how to merge that. But I'll give you all the pages now, how they are now, because that's another thing I'm in the process of.
But
Yeah.
thank you so much, my love. Thank you.
Thank
for
you
your
guys for
time.
having me. It was a pleasure.
Yay, I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy.
Gracias.
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 Gracias por acompañarnos
gracias.
a Calladita Te Ves Más Bonita. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, comment our content. If you have any ideas or any stories you'd like to share, you can reach out to us as well. All our links are in our bio, and we will be sharing Jen's links as well. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.